Okay, so here I am. I've gone ahead and looked these boards over. I put the jointed edge at the top. Now, for sake of video purposes, I'm going to just go ahead and use a big magic marker, and I'm going to write the word top out. So this is what I would see to the outside. Top, out. Same thing, top, out, and again, top, out. Now you can see how it's laid out here. I have a back and a side and a front and the other side. Now, you can tell that this is the bottom, so I don't need to label the bottom, but I do want this edge and this end, I should say, these two ends to go together. I want these two ends to go together. I want these two ends to go together, and if I could take this board here and bring it down to the other end, I'd want this end to go together with this end. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark what corner goes to what corner, and I'm going to circle them, and I'm going to put it on the outside. So I'm going to say, all right, for sake of ease, I'm going to say number one, circle it, number one, circle it. Those two go together. Number two, circle it. Number two, circle it. Number three, circle it. Number three, circle it. And number four, circle it. And obviously this guy here is number four, because when it makes that corner, that turn, these line up. Number four lines up to number four. This is very important that we do this, and we have to be very, very, consistent in our labeling and our accuracy. Now, if you want, you can also, if you feel like, oh, well, I don't understand, this is the dovetail jig, and this is the dovetail bit, and those we want to go here. We want the dovetails to go here along this edge. So you could write dovetail here, dovetail, and then you would write pin right there if you needed to do that. That's fine. Dovetail and then pin. The two go together. So there you have it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this off. I'm going to get some clamps, and I'm going to get set up, and I'm going to show you how to do a dovetail. Then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do pins, and I will show you the fit that these two jigs, when working together, can create. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've retrieved the clamps, the bar clamps, with the red handles. They have a pretty long throat on them. That's why I like them. I put them close to the top. I know how thick the material is that I'm trying to put into it, so I keep them down below that surface. The height of the dovetail bit is right there at that line, and I used the board that's going to be mating with this as my, since it's surface plane, I used it by putting it right to the jig. Notice it's nice and tight right there, and then I marked underneath it. Once that was done, with the router bit unplugged, the dovetail bit unplugged, I go ahead and I set the router on the template, and I want to come in here and make sure that this tip is right there at that pencil line. If it was down here, I'd have way too much sanding to do, and if it was up here, they wouldn't be deep enough. So that represents, that point right there represents the actual thickness. So I like to bring that tip right to that bottom pencil line. And to me, when I rotate that, that looks pretty close right there. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is make sure that this is in the off position. This toggle switch has to be in the off position. It says off right there. That's on. That's off. There we go. You want to treat these templates with lots and lots of care. They're very accurate, very precise, but you can knock them out if you're not careful. So please treat them with the utmost respect and be very careful with them. Do not play around. Do not hold them with one hand, two hands. Always make sure that you are taking extreme care to make sure that this is not going to go anywhere. I have it clamped here in the vise. Students often ask me, well, why don't you turn these bars around? The reason is that it's harder for me to grip and get a good solid grip when it's around. I'm working on the back side. I don't mind these handles here because when I route, I'm not really routing right on top of it where they could actually get into my chest. I like to route right here away from it so I'm not on top of it. So we're going to go ahead, put the cord in the back so I don't run over the cord. You can see what I'm going to do here. Let's talk about my spacing. When I was laying this out, my spacing left me with a tail that was here, very thin here, and very thin on the other side. So I made the decision to go ahead and give a bigger piece of meat down here at the foot versus at the top. I will have this type of transaction here at the top. A lot more wear and tear in my opinion on the floor, dragging around the weight of the content, so I wanted this edge to be a little thicker. From here over, I wanted that to be thicker. So, good point is that I want the bottom and the top to be the same, so I'm going to put a pencil line here right along my jig, and then I'm going to put a point right there, today's date, okay, today's date, whatever date it is today, and that way when I take this edge or this end here and I rotate this down here, this up to here, keeping the bottom to my left, I line that mark up to that edge. Okay, so it's imperative that I know where the top is, the bottom, and when I'm using this dovetailing jig, that the bottom is always to the left and on that mark. So we'll start back here. Make sure I'm away from the jig. Make sure you're away from it. Go ahead and bring this up a little bit. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Turn it on. Okay. You'll notice that I have not lifted that up. That blade is still spinning, still dangerous. I'm going to let it come to a complete stop, at which time now I can go ahead and remove it safely. Put it on the table. You will get dusty. Don't worry, you won't melt. Go ahead and release. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to go ahead and release my left. So now I can use my left and hold it with my right so the jig doesn't fall. Okay, I told you I would have this small area here. I'd have that small area right here at the top. I'm okay with that, where this bottom is a lot wider. Okay, so to do the other side, I would simply take this and flip it this way. I would not take it and flip it this way. That would be wrong. Left side, bottom, left side is here. Rotate it, put it down, and then I would simply put this in, tighten up my vise. My vise is now tight. Take the jig. I put a mark right there with the date, okay, so that I could see it. Put that mark right on that edge, and then I would clamp it and proceed to do this over and over. So you can see why it's imperative that the sides and the front and back are exactly the same width, so everything can be repeated over and over so it all looks symmetrical. Now I'll go ahead and unplug this so I can get set up to do the sockets or the pins. Okay, so here we are. I have one of the sides, number 1 pins. That's the corner that's going to be matched up to the number 1 dovetail, and it's on the outside. Okay, I know that this is the top, this is the bottom. I've created this little jig to help hold you to line this up, because what we need to do is we need to mark where we're going to set this template here to make the pins or sockets for the dovetails to slide into. So I'll go ahead and lay this on here, and let's take a look at everything here. Because we've done a pretty good job labeling this, you can see that number 1 is on the outside, number 1 is on the outside, the top is to my left, the top is to my left, and when you do on the sockets, I will just tell you that on one, the top is going to be on your left. When you get ready to do the other side, your top is going to be on your right, because that's just the way it is. If you are doing everything where top and top are the same, 1 and 1 are the same, they will switch. They will go back and forth. Unlike when you're doing the dovetails, you want the bottoms always on the left or always on the right. You don't want to go left and right, or you're going to end up with the situation that I explained earlier. So you're going to line this up. What's important, I always ask the students, what's important? Is the bottom important, or is the top where the lid's going to be going important? I feel that the top is important. So if you have a nice flush edge here, it's easier to make it's harder to sand this for a lid if you have this stepped at all. We can sand the bottom a lot easier and hide any discrepancies. Nonetheless, we need to have a straight edge. So I'll use this piece of MDF to line up my front. Let's throw it out a lot. You can see that, wow, I'd have a step like that. That would be huge. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this to here, touch that right there. Now, how do we adjust this for this particular jig? Well, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a knife to mark where the tails are going to, or that you're going to be removing for the sockets, where the tails are going to live. You're removing, in all sense, you're removing wood here, leaving this part here proud, and that part that's proud goes up inside of this, okay? But you're making sockets that are at an angle, but they're flat. So what I want to do is I'm going to move the camera down so that I can try and see directly over. Hopefully the camera's picking up that there is daylight right through here where that knife is coming up. That means that this is too far away, and over like this, that's too far forward. What I want is I want this shoulder right here. I want this shoulder to be right on that corner at 90 degrees. I want it to be straight over that corner, so I'm going to go ahead and line that up, look at it the best I can. Okay, I like that. Right there. The next thing I need to do is I need to check for my, oh, look how far I'm off. So I'm going to move this over, and it just threw my alignment out. Well, that's okay. I know I'm good here now at the front or the top. I look over. I like that. The knife is what I push down and push down, and I'm going to scribe a line right next to those tails. Okay? I always give myself a reference point knowing that I've scribed it here and here, so that when I slide this back, that, oh, right in here I can go ahead and darken that up. And now I can see my knife cut there. And there's my other two knife cuts. Notice that they are going out this way, thin at the front, wide at the back. Let's take a look at the jig. Thin at the front, wide at the back. I'm going to go ahead and set that as close as I possibly can. But using the tip of the knife, I will move it off to the side, find that cut grain with the tip. Now I'm in it before the knife is sliding. Knife is sliding, but when I find that cut grain, I go ahead and slide that over, hold that, and now I can put on one of my clamps. Okay. Now, if this side was bowed at all, and if it was bowed really bad, what I would do is I would take a straight edge like this, put it here, and then clamp this edge to this, which would straighten that out, so that when I did do the dovetailing or make the sockets, it would be straight. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this to here. You should be thinking already, hey, that's flat. How are we going to check for thickness? You're right. If you are saying we are going to take the actual piece and set it here. Make sure I don't hit my clamps, and I'm not. Okay. The router unplugged. We're going to come down here and we're going to check the height, and I think, in my opinion, that height is pretty good right there. Okay, so I don't have to adjust this. Go ahead and remove the router. I want to check something here, make sure I'm not going to hit my clamps. I'm good. I'm good. It's always best to make sure that you're cautious instead of sorry. Safe to be sorry. Now, I will say this. I want the cord out of the way. I don't want to be stepping over the cord. So the on-off switch is up in front or towards me. When this bit is spinning, it spins this direction. It spins this direction, comes over here, and can tear out this grain that's running vertical. So the first thing I want to do is I want to come in while this is running this direction and do a climb cut. Then I can go forward, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward, come back, and then out, and I want this grain gone so I don't have any chip out on my face. Okay, so I'm going to do a climb cut, go into the jig, out the back of the jig, and then towards the front where I've already removed a layer of that lumber, so I won't chip it. Make sure that this is out of my way. Turn this on. Okay, so hopefully you saw the action of the router bit. I'm going to now stand above it and continue the cut. Make sure that I start off the workpiece but flat on the template. Notice I wait for it to stop. I'm not touching any of the fingers, and it's out here in air, and my base is flat. Go ahead and turn it over, unplug it, because I'm not going to be doing it anymore. And again, remove one of these clamps, move the knife out of the way. Go ahead and loosen this other one. Hold on to the template. Okay, so here we go. Moment of truth. We have the top to my left. The top is to my left. And I've got this guy sitting there holding it up for me. Now you can see that if I was to go down like this, I'm going to put these sockets into a bind. So I'm going to bring it up here a little bit. Simply by giving it a little bit of a loose, bring it up, tighten it. Now I could probably use my hand to start this. This is a wonderful template, but I'm going to use a dead blow. I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm going to work it down, and you're going to see the wood come down and kind of work its way down. Okay? And that's the type of dovetail joint that this particular jig will make. It's very good. It's self-squaring. And it's that simple. So there it is. What I would do is I would do all the fronts and backs, do all the dovetails, and then I would go ahead and change templates and then do the two sides. Okay, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me, but don't be afraid to rewind and review this. It's pretty simple.